Hello motherfuckers, welcome back to my motherfucking channel. So today this video is going to be a little different, okay? As you know, we are in the Beatles series on my channel. If you don't, now you know. I've reacted to every Beatles album all the way up until the White Album thus far. Friday will be Yellow Submarine. It's a soundtrack EP. Gag. But I'm doing it all. So if you want to check that out, there's a link in the description with a playlist of all my Beatles videos right there. But what's so different about today is the White Album was such a big, tremendous album. It had to be split into two because it was in the 60s and albums with 30 plus songs weren't a thing back then. So I had to be split into two discs or two records. So I wanted to do that. I wanted to split it up into two records so I could have that feeling of like I'm in the 60s. Also, just recording a whole video of me listening to like 30 plus songs straight is actually insane, okay? And then editing would also have been insane. So I just split it up into two videos. They're both out on my channel right now. This is going to be the overall review. We're putting this album into one album, and I'm going to review it right now. Coming from Sgt. Pepper's and Magical Mystery Tour, this album, it felt so fucking different, okay? It felt like the actual Beatles, okay? I was going to say, it didn't feel like the Beatles, but it didn't feel like anything the Beatles have done this far. And they really nailed it on the head. I feel like every artist, band, whatever, they should have albums like Sgt. Pepper's and Magical Mystery Tour and Revolver, Rubber Soul. I feel like they should have these albums. They're fun, but they also have meaning to them, of course. But like, I feel like they should also have an album like the White Album. Literally, the album cover was just a literal white picture, okay? And it said the Beatles on it. Very simple. It fit with the whole album. The album was so simple, yet so, like, mind-bending. It was just so good, you know? And especially for the 1960s, it just really sat well with me. Now, I kept saying throughout the album that it was giving me, like, soul vibes, soul/rock and roll vibes, and that's exactly what it was. Like, it literally felt like it was from deep within their soul, and it felt like they had to write this album. They had to put out this album. And it really put you in a good mood. You know, there were depressing parts of the album. I'm not going to lie. But overall, it was just a really solid piece of music. The whole album as a whole. All 30 plus songs, you know. And I said this in the part 2 review that it just feels like an album that you can put on before you go to sleep. Listen to the entire thing. And just, you know, chill and just lay there, smoke, you know, chill with your boys, your girls, whatever, and just gag away, freak out. That's what you guys said. It's called freak out, not gagging. But I'm going to keep saying gagging because gag. Now, for this album to be in the 1960s and for me to listen to it in 2024, it really just, I don't know, it just feels sentimental to me. It was really... This is one of my favorite albums of all time now, okay? That's what I'm going to say. It really moved me, and it really just opened my eyes to something that was just like, whoa. You know, I didn't think that I would like the 60s music, but I'm here, and I'm loving it, okay? I'm loving this journey that we're on. But yeah, overall, it's just stripped down, laid back, just real relaxing vibes. I love it so fucking much. Okay, now we're going to get into my rating of the album. All 30 songs. This isn't half or the other half. This is all 30 songs, okay? So I get my ratings from these 5 categories on albums. Vocals, production, consistency, writing, and the album cover itself. The first category is vocals. The vocals all throughout this album were so diverse, okay? Very soulful, just very gritty, you know? Like, just really down to earth, gagging, okay? From Dear Prudence to Long, 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 from Sexy Sadie to Obladi, Oblada, those vocals, like those songs that I just named right there, all different pieces of vocals that really came together and gave this album what it was, and what I'm about to give it is a 10. Okay, the vocals here just sounded so amazing. One of the best performances from the Beatles that I've seen thus far when it comes to vocals, okay? Okay, the next category on this album is production. I feel like this was the peak, okay? Peak of the 60s music when it comes to production. Of course, it got better over the decades, you know, music overall, not just speaking on the Beatles. Music overall, just the production got better. But this right here, okay, before all these funky, fancy sounds were being used, this was the pinnacle of it all. It just felt very solid, okay? Because once again, it was just laid back. There wasn't those sounds that you heard on songs like in Sgt. Pepper's and stuff like that. It was just very raw talent when it comes to the instruments. So, and it all fit together really perfectly. I'm going to give the production throughout this whole fucking album a 10. The best song that stood out to me though was on part 2. Mother Nature's Son, that production right there was so fucking good. That and Dear Prudence, those were my top 2 favorite songs from this album. I don't know, there was just something really, I was connected to those songs, okay? And it comes from that production. So I'm going to give the production a 10, okay? And the next category is consistency. I had no problem getting through this album. There was just the tiniest, bittiest hinder in the production, or in the consistency when it came to Revolution 9. Very funky song, okay? That's all I'm going to say about that. If you want to see the reaction to that, go to part 2. It was gagging. But overall, seriously, I could literally listen to this album from start to finish. All 30 songs here. This is all 30 songs I'm talking about. From start to finish. Even Revolution 9, because I feel like it really just, it belonged on this album. It felt like it belonged here, you know? Everything flowed together so perfectly. That also goes in with that production and how it was just laid out. So I'm going to give the consistency of this album a 10. Gag. The next category is writing. The writing on this album, once again going along with those vocals. I always say the vocals and the writing go hand in hand. It can be a beautifully written song, but if you give it to somebody that can't really sing, they can sing, but it's just not for them. You know, that's always a thing that you have to consider. But this writing in particular, bitch, got one of their best performed here. This is one of their best right here, okay? Gag. From Mother Nature's Son to Long to Good Night. Even Good Night, you know, it was very gagging. To Dear Prudence, Obla-dee, Obla-da, While My Guitar Gently Weeps. Those songs right there really fucking stood out to me when it came to the vocals itself. Even Revolution 1 really stood out to me. It was really good. So I'm going to give the writing on this album a 10. It was so mystical, so magical. Although it was really brought down to earth, it was really good, okay? The writing, it just was really relatable and just... God. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the album cover, okay? I've already given this album, you already know, it's a 10. I like it. I like it a lot. Not only because it's so simple, but it's so iconic, okay? What other artist do you know that can just have a blank album cover and have it be just remembered for decades, okay? Half a century, okay? Gagging. Fucking gagging. And it speaks volumes. It's simple, but it speaks volumes. The album was cut back, just stripped down, just the raw Beatles. Mr. Beatles really knew what they were doing when they did this fucking album cover. It just speaks volumes. But yeah, a 10. So if you add up each score from the categories I just named, you'll get a solid score of 10. This is the first 10 on this journey that I've given the Beatles for sure. And I feel like it fits so well for them, you know? I couldn't see this album not getting at least a 9.8 from somebody, you know? I really can't. Very solid body of work. One of the best albums I've ever fucking heard overall, you know? Gagging. There is an album that I would like to go back to and revisit and re-rate it, because I just feel like it also should have a 10, and I'm just going to say it here. Sgt. Pepper's deserved to be a 10, okay? I think it was like a 9.8 or something along the, like, right there. Should have been a 10. Okay, now, usually I do my top 5 from an album, but since this album was 30 fucking songs, I'm going to have to do a top 10. So here's my top 10 from the White Album by the Beatles. So this is in order. This isn't how I feel about each of these songs, because I will say my top 2 are like just, it's just in order how I'm reading it off of Apple Music, whatever. So, Dear Prudence, Obla Di Obla Da, While My Guitar Gently Weeps, I'm So Tired, Julia, Mother Nature's Son, Sexy Sadie, Long Long Long, Revolution 1, and Good Night. Okay, those are my top 10 songs from the 30-song album, Gagging. Okay, I want to know your guys' top 10 from the whole album itself, the whole experience. Make sure you guys watch part 1 and part 2 because very different reviews, very different just feelings overall. And so I just wanted to do this just to bring it all together, okay? So yeah, give me your guys' top 5. If you want to do my rating system with me, go ahead, do it in the comments. I reply to every comment. So yeah, I want to know your guys' thoughts. I really do, because this album, I feel like it just changed just the phrase the Beatles overall, you know, for the greater good. Gag. It was timeless fucking album. Okay, so make sure you guys are here Friday for the Yellow Submarine review. I just want to say it right now, I already listened to the album right before I did this video, and gaggery. That's all I can say is gaggery. I don't want to spoil it for you, but go over there and watch that because it should be out Friday. And then next week we're going to be doing Let It Be. If you have any insight, anything that you want to give me before I do that album, let me know, because I really need to know. I do know that it was made before Abbey Road, and I do know it was dropped after Abbey Road. It was the last song that they, or the last album that they dropped. So that's why I want to do it first. But if you have anything other than that to add, let me know. But I guess that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this, the White Album part 1, part 2 vibes. And I hope you guys are enjoying my journey so far. And I guess that's it. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. And bye, motherfuckers.